Dennis Weaver walked away from the exact life most actors spend decades chasing. At the peak of his fame, while Hollywood stars were buying mansions and throwing parties in Beverly Hills, Weaver vanished into the mountains of Colorado to build something that neighbors genuinely believed was insane. A massive off-grid fortress made from thousands of old tires buried deep into a frozen hillside. But the strangest part was not the house itself. It was what people discovered inside after the project was finally completed. Hidden systems, unusual technology, rooms that did not feel like they belonged in the modern world at all. And the deeper they looked into Sunridge, the more disturbing Dennis Weaver's obsession started to become. The star who rejected Hollywood. Dennis Weaver had everything that Hollywood promised: fame, money, awards, and a face that millions of viewers invited into their living rooms every week. He could have lived anywhere, driven anything, and worn any label. Instead, he chose to build a house out of old tires. When reporters finally saw what was inside that house, they did not know whether to call it visionary or deeply unsettling. The truth, as it turned out, was somewhere in between, and the path that led him there was stranger than anyone imagined. Dennis Weaver's rise through the entertainment industry followed a familiar arc. He first captured the national spotlight playing Chester Goode, the good-natured, limping deputy on Gunsmoke. The role required him to move with a convincing limp, a physical detail he performed so well that viewers assumed he was actually disabled. He stayed with the show for 9 seasons, long enough to become one of the most recognizable faces on television. His performance earned him an Emmy Award for the 1958 to 1959 season, cementing his status as a serious actor rather than just a working stiff. He did not stop there. After Gunsmoke, Weaver took the lead role in McCloud, playing a cowboy cop navigating the mean streets of New York. The show ran from 1970 to 1977 and made him a star all over again. Between those 2 series, he also starred in Steven Spielberg's television movie debut, Duel, a tense thriller about a man terrorized by a mysterious truck driver. At the height of his earning power, Weaver pulled in $9,000 per week. Adjusted for inflation, that sum would be staggering today. He had won the lottery that most actors only dream about, yet none of it seemed to satisfy him. While his peers attended Hollywood parties, bought lavish homes in Beverly Hills, and competed for the most expensive cars, Weaver pulled away. He became a strict vegetarian at a time when that choice was considered eccentric rather than virtuous. He studied Eastern mysticism with a seriousness that his agents probably wished he would keep private. He became an active speaker for the Self-Realization Fellowship, a spiritual organization that emphasized meditation and inner peace. He practiced intensive yoga, not as a fitness trend, but as a discipline designed to isolate his mind from the entertainment industry's culture. Dennis Weaver was deeply contemplative and increasingly disconnected from the world that had made him famous. His disillusionment deepened when he took on a leadership role. Weaver served as the president of the Screen Actors Guild from 1973 to 1975, a position that gave him behind-the-scenes access to corporate studio logistics. What he saw there appalled him. The massive carbon footprint of the industry, the industrial fuel consumption required to keep lights and cameras running, and the systemic material waste generated daily across major studio lots shocked him. He had expected some level of inefficiency, but not the sheer scale of the destruction he found. His belief in mainstream industrial efficiency shattered during those years. The studios were not just making movies. They were consuming resources at a rate that seemed almost designed to be wasteful. The seeds of this awakening had been planted earlier. In 1971, while filming Duel, Weaver watched the endless exhaust pouring from transportation vehicles on location. He saw the volume of plastic, cardboard, and food waste thrown directly into dumpsters at the end of every shooting day. The film was about a man versus a machine. Behind the camera, Weaver realized that the machine was winning in real life. That experience crystallized his environmental consciousness. He began speaking publicly about ecological preservation and alternative energy. Bear with me for just a moment. This is genuinely worth 20 seconds of your time. Quick question. Can you still remember every word to a song from 1975, but you forgot what you had for breakfast this morning? Scientists found the exact reason for that pattern in 2013. It has nothing to do with aging. It's a specific system inside your brain, and researchers have found exactly how to restore it. Go to brainresearchreport.com, or if it's easier, it's linked in the description below. It's genuinely one of those things you'll wish you'd known sooner. Now, back to the video. Positions that made him sound like a fringe activist to his Hollywood peers. He did not care. He had seen what they refused to see. By the late 1970s and into the 80s, Weaver experienced a profound personal and ideological shift. He had made millions. He had owned the cars and the houses and the status symbols that came with success, but none of it felt secure. He realized that despite his multi-million-dollar status, he was just as dependent on fragile systems as everyone else. The food in his refrigerator came from corporate supply chains. The electricity in his walls came from municipal energy grids. If those systems failed, his money would not keep him alive. That realization hit him like a physical blow. He had spent his entire career building wealth inside a system that he now believed was inherently volatile and destructive. He needed a way out. He did not just talk about the problem. He acted on it. In 1982, Weaver founded an organization called LIFE, an acronym that stood for Love is Feeding Everyone. The charity was massive in scale, feeding over 150,000 impoverished individuals per week in Los Angeles. Weaver was not writing a check and attending a gala. He was building a logistics operation large enough to feed a small city. In the process, he witnessed the brutal reality of resource distribution and food insecurity firsthand. He saw how fragile the system really was. He saw how close millions of people lived to hunger. That experience changed him permanently. He began to ask a question that would consume the rest of his life. If he could feed 150,000 people a week using existing infrastructure, what would it take to feed one person completely outside that infrastructure? What would it take to build a home that required no municipal water, no public electricity, no grocery store, and no waste disposal? A home that was not just energy efficient, but entirely self-contained. A home that could survive any collapse of the systems that everyone else took for granted. The answer he arrived at was both brilliant and disturbing. He decided to build a house out of old tires, not as a novelty or a political statement, but as a functional, livable structure that would prove his theories about sustainable living could work. The project would consume years of his life, test the limits of his marriage, and attract the kind of attention that most celebrities spend their entire careers trying to avoid. When the house was finally finished, the things that were found inside made the tire walls look like the least unusual part of the property. The off-grid fortress. Nobody understood. To build what he had in mind, Dennis Weaver needed an architect who thought the way he did. That meant finding someone who had already rejected the rules that everyone else followed. In the late 1980s, he discovered Michael Reynolds, a builder based in New Mexico whose ideas about sustainable housing were so far outside the mainstream that the state had revoked his professional architecture license. The official reason was straightforward. Reynolds was building experimental structures out of unapproved garbage materials. He used old tires, empty bottles, and discarded cans. He did not ask for permission or wait for approval. He just built it. The state responded by taking away his license to call himself an architect. For Dennis Weaver, that was the endorsement he needed. Captivated by Reynolds' outlaw concepts, Weaver and his wife Jerry bypassed the standard celebrity route of buying a mansion in the hills or a ranch in Montana. Instead, they purchased a remote, windswept, high-altitude plot of land in Ridgway, Colorado. The property sat over 7,000 feet up in the Rocky Mountains. Winter temperatures there routinely plummet below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. The land was beautiful but brutal, exposed to every storm that rolled down from the peaks. Most celebrities would have looked at that location and driven back to Beverly Hills. Weaver looked at it and saw a test site. Construction on the property began in 1989. Weaver gave it a code name, Sunridge. He did not hire a general contractor and walk away. He deliberately turned down multiple lucrative Hollywood projects to spend 5 grueling years personally hauling material and funding the build from his own savings. He was not a young man when this work began. He was in his mid-60s, an age when most people are slowing down, not swinging sledgehammers at tire walls in freezing temperatures. But Weaver was not most people. He believed he was building a prototype for the future of human shelter. He was not going to watch from a distance. The foundation of the house required brutal, back-breaking labor that would have broken younger men. Workers had to manually pack approximately 400 pounds of heavy mountain dirt into each discarded automobile tire. The tires were stacked like bricks, and every single one had to be filled by hand using heavy sledgehammers. The process was so physically devastating that hired local laborers routinely quit after their very first shift. They showed up in the morning, took one look at the work, and walked away. Some did not even finish the day. Weaver kept going. He packed tires alongside the few workers who stayed. The tires alone were not enough. To fill the gaps between the dense tire blocks, Weaver's team had to get creative. They systematically mined local trash dumps and municipal landfills, retrieving 15,000 discarded aluminum beverage cans and thousands of plastic bottles. These materials were not garbage to Weaver, they were structural components. The cans and bottles were packed into the gaps and then covered with concrete, creating a filler matrix that was both strong and lightweight. The walls of the house were essentially made from the contents of a dump. That was the point. Weaver wanted to prove that one person's trash could become another person's shelter. While all of this was happening, the people of Ridgway watched with a mixture of confusion and suspicion. The valley was home to traditional Colorado ranchers, families who had lived on that land for generations. They were not accustomed to Hollywood actors showing up with dump trucks full of tires. From across the valley, the construction site looked less like an innovative eco-home and more like a massive, towering mountain of black, rotting rubber. The neighbors could not see the vision. They saw garbage piling up on a hillside. Local rumors spread quickly. Some said the Hollywood actor had suffered a mental breakdown. Others claimed he was running an illegal commercial junkyard. A few whispered that he was building a compound, some kind of fortified retreat for a doomsday cult. The rumors were understandable. In a community where homes were built from wood and stone, a tire house looked like madness. Weaver did not bother correcting the rumors. He was too busy packing dirt into rubber and hauling cans out of landfills. The physical toll of the build was matched by the financial strain. Weaver had made millions in Hollywood, but construction costs added up quickly. He was paying for materials, paying for the few laborers who stayed, and paying to transport thousands of tires from collection sites to the property. At the same time, he was turning down acting work that could have replenished his accounts. His wife Jerry supported the project, but even she must have wondered whether this was a worthwhile use of their remaining productive years. Most couples in their 60s are planning retirement. The Weavers were planning a tire fortress. By the mid-1990s, the exterior shell of Sunridge was finally complete. From a distance, the house still looked strange, a dark earthen mound rising from the Colorado landscape. But up close, the structure revealed itself as something entirely new. The tire walls were covered in plaster, softening their industrial appearance. The rows of cans and bottles, now sealed in concrete, caught the light in unexpected ways. The house did not look like a junkyard. It looked like something from another planet, or perhaps from a future that had not arrived yet. But the exterior was only half the story. What Weaver had hidden inside the walls of Sunridge was even more remarkable than the tires and cans. And when journalists and building inspectors finally got permission to see what was inside, they found technology that most architects had never dreamed of. The hidden technology inside Sunridge. The finished home measured somewhere between 6,000 and 7,300 square feet, depending on which architectural plans one consulted. It was a luxury fortress by any standard, but a fortress built from materials that most people throw away. At its core stood 3,000 rammed earth rubber tires, stacked like bricks and locked together with a mortar made from recycled aluminum cans. The entire structure was then buried beneath a smooth skin of hand-sculpted adobe mud plaster, tinted with natural oxide pigments that gave the walls a warm, earthy tone. From the outside, it looked organic, almost alive. From the inside, it felt solid in a way that conventional houses never did. One of the most remarkable hidden features of Sunridge was a structural tire wall hidden inside the master suite closet. The wall reached nearly 14 feet in height, and its sole purpose was to hold back the physical pressure of the hillside behind it. Without that wall, tons of shifting mountain earth would have slowly pushed through the back of the house, cracking the foundations and collapsing rooms. Weaver and his builders had essentially turned a retaining wall into a bedroom feature. The closet was not just a place to hang clothes. It was a piece of civil engineering disguised as cabinetry. The home had no central furnace, no boiler, and no connection to a natural gas line. This was not an oversight. It was the entire point of the experiment. The 3-foot-thick mud and rubber walls served as a massive thermal battery. During the day, they naturally absorbed ambient heat from the sun. At night, when temperatures in the Rockies dropped below freezing, that stored heat radiated inward, keeping the interior stable without burning a single molecule of fossil fuel. The concept was simple and ancient even, but no one had ever applied it at this scale using garbage as the primary material. The performance of this system exceeded every expectation. The front facade of Sunridge consisted of double-pane glass windows angled with mathematical precision to capture the low winter sun. During sub-zero Rocky Mountain blizzards, when the wind howled and the snow piled high against the walls, the passive solar design proved so incredibly efficient that the interior remained a steady 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The family did not need to bundle up in blankets or huddle around a fireplace. They needed to open the windows. The house was generating so much heat that they had to let some of it escape just to stay comfortable. Electricity came from the sky. Sunridge generated 100% of its power through a custom photovoltaic solar array, but this was not the kind of fixed panel system that most people associate with solar energy. The array physically rotated on a tracking mechanism that followed the sun's exact orbital path throughout the day. From dawn to dusk, the panels moved, tilting and turning to capture the maximum possible sunlight at every hour. The energy they collected was channeled directly into a specialized indoor battery storage bank, which kept the lights on and the appliances running even when the sun was not shining. The system was so advanced for its time that visiting engineers reportedly shook their heads in disbelief. Water worked differently at Sunridge as well. The house had no connection to a municipal water line. Instead, the roof was engineered as a massive structural funnel designed to catch every drop of rain and every flake of melting snow. The precipitation was channeled into 4 interconnected underground polypropylene cisterns with a total capacity of 6,000 gallons. That is enough water to sustain a family for months, even in the dry Colorado climate. But collecting the water was only half the challenge. Making it safe to drink was the other half. Weaver installed a 3-stage mechanical filtration system that removed sediment, bacteria, and chemical contaminants. When the water came out of the tap, it was cleaner than anything that flowed through municipal pipes. What happened to the water after it went down the drain was perhaps the most unusual feature of the entire property. Sunridge had no connection to a city sewer line. Wastewater from sinks and laundry, a category known as gray water, did not disappear into some underground pipe. Instead, it funneled directly into deep indoor greenhouse planters filled with a living soil ecosystem. Microorganisms in that soil consumed the organic waste from the water, naturally purifying it while also feeding the plants growing above. The system turned sewage into fertilizer and fertilizer into food. In the middle of the cold mountain terrain, where nothing green grew for half the year, Weaver was growing tropical crops, fruits, and orchids inside his living room. The greenhouse planters were not small decorative boxes. They were industrial-scale installations that ran through multiple rooms of the house. The air inside Sunridge smelled different than the air outside. It was humid, earthy, and alive. Visitors who expected a dark cave of rubber and dirt found themselves standing in a beautiful garden. The line between shelter and ecosystem had been erased completely. Weaver had succeeded in building exactly what he set out to build. A home that required no municipal water, no public electricity, no grocery store, and no waste disposal. The systems he installed were not prototypes or proof-of-concept demonstrations. They were fully functional, tested by years of Colorado winters and summers. The house worked. In fact, it worked so well that the family often forgot they were living off the grid. But the same features that made Sunridge a marvel of sustainable engineering also made it deeply unsettling to the people who finally got to see inside. The house did not look or smell like a normal home. The walls were not drywall and paint, but mud and plaster. The floors were not hardwood or tile, but rammed earth. Visitors who expected a quirky celebrity project walked out troubled by what they had seen. The house was not wrong. It was just so far outside normal experience that it felt wrong. And then there was the question of what all of this was worth, the final fate of the off-grid fortress. The absolute success of Sunridge proved something that most people did not want to hear. Modern society's reliance on trillion-dollar utility grids and fossil fuel infrastructure was not a matter of necessity. It was a matter of habit. Sunridge, built from 3,000 old tires and over 15,000 discarded beverage cans, sustained a luxury lifestyle using nothing but free, localized natural elements and the trash that other people threw away. The sun heated it, the rain filled its tanks, and the earth kept it warm through blizzards. The implications were uncomfortable for an industry that had spent a century convincing the public that comfort required consumption. Weaver did not keep his discovery to himself. He used his Hollywood platform to aggressively lobby local bureaucratic zoning boards, showing up at meetings with data, photographs, and invitations for officials to come see the house for themselves. The structural evidence he presented was difficult to dismiss. The house worked. The numbers did not lie. After years of resistance, Colorado officials were forced to rewrite their rigid, decades-old building codes. The new regulations created the legal pathway for green, off-grid, Earthship biotexture homes to be built not just in Colorado, but around the world. An actor who had once played a good-natured deputy had changed the law. That was not supposed to happen, but Dennis Weaver was never interested in doing what was supposed to happen. The financial gamble behind Sunridge was substantial. In 1989, Weaver invested $300,000 of his own cash into the project. That sum would be significantly larger today, but even in late 1980s dollars, it was a massive financial risk. He was putting his own money into an experimental, unproven architectural theory made from literal garbage. There was no guarantee the house would stand. There was no guarantee the thermal battery would work. There was no guarantee the gray water system would not poison the family. Weaver built it anyway, and he paid for it himself. He did not seek investors or launch a crowdfunding campaign. He wrote the checks from his savings account and hoped the experiment would not bankrupt him. For years, the house remained a private residence, known only to the Weaver family and a small circle of friends and fellow environmental advocates. But as the concept of Earthship biotexture gained attention, the property began to attract interest from buyers who understood what it represented. During the later years of Dennis Weaver's life, the estate was listed at prices as high as $4,250,000. That was a remarkable valuation for a house made of tires, and it reflected the growing appreciation for what Sunridge had accomplished. The home was no longer seen as an eccentric celebrity project. It was seen as a landmark. Dennis Weaver passed away in 2006. His wife Jerry followed in 2016. The couple had built Sunridge together and weathered the rumors and the frozen winters and the physical exhaustion of packing dirt into tires. With both of them gone, the estate passed to their children. Dennis and Jerry Weaver were survived by 3 sons, Rick, Robbie, and Rusty Weaver. The 3 brothers inherited a property that was priceless in its historical and architectural significance, but challenging in its real estate marketability. A house made of tires, no matter how well engineered, is not everyone's idea of a dream home. The Sunridge estate, including the main house and approximately 20 surrounding acres, subsequently sold on the open real estate market for $1,369,000. That was significantly lower than the original listings during Dennis Weaver's lifetime, but it represented a successful sale for a property that many experts assumed would never find a buyer. The price reflected the niche nature of the home. It was not a property for a family looking for a conventional suburban house. It was a property for someone who understood what the Earthship movement represented and wanted to own a piece of its history. The sale did not happen because the Weaver family was in financial distress. Contrary to the sad endings that often accompany celebrity estates, the 3 sons have maintained excellent personal and financial stability. They have worked to preserve their father's artistic and environmental legacy rather than cashing out and walking away. The transfer of ownership was deliberate. The family wanted the historic Earthship to remain protected as a functioning monument to off-grid independence. They did not want it to fall into the hands of someone who would gut the interior, rip out the gray water planters, and convert the property into a standard mountain cabin. That would have erased everything their father had built. The new owner of Sunridge faces an unusual set of responsibilities. The house is not a turnkey property. It requires an understanding of thermal batteries, solar tracking, cistern management, and gray water ecology. Someone who buys a conventional home calls a plumber when the pipes freeze. Someone who buys Sunridge has to understand why the pipes are not supposed to freeze in the first place. The systems are robust, but not intuitive. They demand a level of engagement that most homeowners never experience. Living in an earthship is not passive. It is a relationship. Today, Sunridge stands as a quiet monument to one man's refusal to accept the world as it was handed to him. Dennis Weaver could have retired to a beach house in Malibu. He could have spent his remaining years playing golf and collecting residuals from Gunsmoke reruns. Instead, he chose to spend his 60s packing dirt into old tires on a frozen mountainside. He did it because he believed that the way people lived was broken, and he wanted to prove that another way was possible. He proved it. The house still stands. The systems still work. The tires have not rotted. The cans have not collapsed. The sun still rises, and when it does, the thermal batteries still charge. Dennis Weaver would have called that a win. He was never in it for the money anyway. He was in it because he had seen the dumpsters overflowing on movie sets, and he had fed the hungry in Los Angeles, and he had realized that the systems everyone trusted were fragile. Would you like to live in a house like Sunridge? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.